A rich single dad came to pick up his daughter, but didn't expect she had found her sister. A rich man left his office early and drove straight to his daughter's school. The day had been long. Calls, meetings, and business deals worth millions. But all of that faded when it was time to see Emily. She was the only light in his life after his wife passed away 3 years ago. He parked his black Mercedes near the school gate, stepped out, and searched for her familiar little figure among the sea of children. But when she finally appeared, something was different. She wasn't alone. Emily was walking hand in hand with another little girl. Smaller, thinner, and with clothes that looked 2 sizes too big. The stranger's hair was messy, her shoes worn out, and her eyes, they carried a sadness Michael Carter couldn't ignore. His daughter ran to him, excitement in her voice.
"Daddy!
This is Lily.
She's my sister!"
The words hit him like a lightning strike. Michael froze, glancing between the 2 girls. "You're what?" he asked, trying to mask the shock in his voice. Emily nodded eagerly, pulling the shy girl closer.
"My sister! We found each other today!"
Lily's small hand tightened around Emily's, as if she was afraid someone might pull them apart. Michael's mind raced. He didn't have another daughter. At least, that's what he believed. Kneeling down, Michael smiled gently at the newcomer. "Hi, Lily. I'm Emily's dad." She looked at him but said nothing, her lips pressed together. There was fear in her eyes. Fear of strangers, fear of speaking. Fear of being unwanted. Michael noticed the small tear in her sweater, the dirt on her knees, and a faded bracelet around her wrist that looked handmade. He couldn't shake the feeling that this little girl had a story no one had heard yet. Emily clung to his arm, her voice serious now. "Daddy, can Lily come with us? She doesn't have anyone waiting for her." Michael glanced toward the school building, expecting to see a teacher or guardian approach. No one came. The playground was almost empty. A cold breeze swept through, making Lily shiver. He hesitated. This wasn't a decision to make lightly. But something in him told him this moment mattered, more than any business deal he'd ever closed. "Where's your mom or dad, Lily?" Michael asked softly. Her voice was barely a whisper. "I don't have them." The weight of those 4 words sank deep into his chest. Michael stood up, scanning the school entrance again, but still, no one came. He realized Lily hadn't been exaggerating, she really had no one. Emily tightened her grip on both of them, her eyes pleading. "Daddy. Please." Michael took a slow breath. "All right. Let's go talk to your teacher first, okay?" He didn't want to make promises yet, but he couldn't leave her here in the cold. Emily's face lit up instantly, while Lily looked both relieved and uncertain. Inside the school office, Michael spoke with Mrs. Harper, the principal. She explained that Lily had been living in foster care, bouncing from one home to another. Today, her foster family never showed up to collect her. There were no immediate relatives on record. The social worker was trying to reach someone, but in the meantime, Lily had been waiting alone. Michael listened quietly, his jaw tightening. A child, Emily's age, left alone in the world. Something about it felt wrong. Mrs. Harper mentioned that Emily had met Lily during recess and refused to leave her side all afternoon. "They've been inseparable," she said with a small smile. Emily kept telling everyone Lily is her sister. Michael glanced at the 2 girls, now sitting together on a bench in the hallway, whispering and giggling as if they'd known each other forever. His heart softened. Maybe they weren't sisters by blood, but he could see the bond already forming. And deep down, he felt a strange pull toward Lily, as if fate had placed her in their path. After signing some temporary permission forms, Michael walked the girls to the car. Lily hesitated before getting in, looking at him with uncertain eyes. "You don't have to take me if it's trouble," she murmured. Michael crouched down to her level. "It's no trouble at all. You're safe with us tonight." "Okay." She gave the faintest nod before sliding into the back seat next to Emily. As they drove through the city, Michael's mind kept returning to her words. "I don't have them." He thought about Emily's joy when she introduced Lily. About how quickly children could accept each other without question. He also thought about how empty his home had felt since Emily's mother passed. Maybe, just maybe, there was room for one more heart in their family. That night over dinner, Emily chattered away, telling stories from school while Lily quietly ate. Michael noticed how she carefully saved a piece of bread, and slipped it into her pocket, when she thought no one was looking. He didn't mention it. But it broke something inside him. Children shouldn't have to worry about their next meal. Before bedtime, Emily whispered to him, "Daddy, can Lily sleep in my room?" Michael smiled. Of course. When he checked on them later, both girls were fast asleep, Emily's arm protectively draped over Lily. For the first time in years, Michael felt his house wasn't just a place. It was becoming a home again. As he turned off the light, he knew this was only the beginning. There were questions to answer, paperwork to handle, and a past to uncover. But one thing was certain, he couldn't walk away from Lily now. She wasn't just Emily's sister anymore. She was part of their story. The next morning, Michael woke to the sound of laughter drifting down the hallway. For a moment, he lay in bed listening. It had been years since his home echoed with that kind of joy. When he walked to Emily's room, he found both girls sitting cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by stuffed animals, whispering as if they'd been sisters forever. Emily looked up and grinned. "Daddy, Lily likes pancakes. Can we have pancakes for breakfast?" Michael smiled. "Pancakes it is." Lily's shy smile appeared for the first time since he'd met her. In the kitchen, Michael flipped pancakes while the girls sat at the counter, chatting about school, favorite games, and a make-believe castle they wanted to build in the backyard. Lily spoke softly, her words careful. But she seemed a little more relaxed. When Michael placed a plate in front of her, she hesitated before taking the first bite. He noticed again how she seemed to measure each portion, as if making it last mattered more than enjoying it. After breakfast, Michael called the foster care office. He introduced himself and explained the situation. The social worker, Ms. Daniels, confirmed Lily's foster parents had not responded to calls. "We're investigating," she said. "But we may need to place her temporarily elsewhere." Michael's eyes drifted to Lily, now playing a board game with Emily. The thought of her being sent to another stranger's house didn't sit right. "What if she stayed here for now?" he asked. Ms. Daniels sounded surprised but explained that it was possible with the right paperwork and background checks. Michael agreed without hesitation. Later that day, Michael took both girls to the park. Emily raced ahead, tugging Lily's hand, while Michael followed behind. He noticed Lily's steps were tentative, her eyes scanning everything like she was storing the moment in her memory. When they reached the playground, Emily ran to the swings. Lily stayed back until Michael walked over. "Want me to push you?" he asked. She bit her lip but nodded, as he gently pushed her higher. A small laugh escaped her. It was light, unguarded, and it hit Michael right in the chest. That night, Michael sat in his study, staring at a file Ms. Daniels had sent over about Lily's background. It wasn't much. Just a note about her being found at age 4, abandoned outside a small grocery store. No family came forward. She had been placed in foster care ever since. Michael's heart ached reading it. How could someone leave a child like that? The following week was a blur of school runs, bedtime stories, and small moments that began to feel like a rhythm. Lily still had moments of quiet withdrawal, but she laughed more often now, especially when Emily was around. Michael started noticing how similar they looked. Same hazel eyes. Same way of tilting their heads when they were curious. He brushed it off at first, but the thought lingered. One Friday afternoon, Michael arrived at school to pick them up. Emily came running with her backpack bouncing, Lily right behind her. "We both got gold stars today," Emily announced. Lily smiled proudly, holding up a sticker-covered paper. Michael congratulated them and took them for ice cream. Sitting at the booth, Emily suddenly asked, "Daddy, can we keep Lily forever?" Michael's hand paused on his spoon. "We'll see, sweetheart," he said gently. Lily's eyes dropped to the table, but a flicker of hope crossed her face. That night, as he tucked them into bed, Emily whispered, "She's my sister, Daddy. I just know it." Michael didn't correct her. He didn't have the heart to tell her there was no proof. But deep down, something told him Emily might be right. Saturday morning brought a rare gift, no alarms, no meetings, no rush to get anywhere. Michael woke to the faint smell of toast and the sound of giggles from the kitchen. Pulling on a t-shirt, he followed the noise and found Emily standing on a stool, buttering bread with far more enthusiasm than skill. Lily sat at the counter, legs swinging, watching her intently. "We're making breakfast for you," Emily declared proudly. Michael smiled, pretending not to notice the butter smeared across the counter. "Looks like I'm in for a feast." After breakfast, the three of them decided to spend the day at the Science Museum. Michael had promised Emily for weeks, but work kept getting in the way. Today, there were no excuses. Lily's eyes widened as they walked through the giant glass doors. She clung to Emily's side at first, overwhelmed by the noise and crowd, but gradually relaxed as they explored exhibits about space, dinosaurs, and underwater life. Michael noticed she asked a lot of questions, thoughtful ones that made him pause. "Do fish get lonely?" she asked at the aquarium tank. He crouched beside her. "Maybe. That's why they swim in schools. So they have each other." She nodded as if storing the answer away. At the gift shop, Michael told them they could each pick one thing. Emily grabbed a colorful kaleidoscope without hesitation. Lily lingered by a shelf of plush toys, her hand hovering over a small brown teddy bear. "You can have it if you want," Michael said. She shook her head quickly. "It's okay. I don't need it." He didn't push, just quietly bought it along with Emily's toy. Later when they got home, he left the bear on Lily's pillow. That night, he saw her asleep with it tucked under her arm. Over the next few days, life began to feel strangely normal. Michael found himself adjusting to the noise of two children in the house, the extra lunch to pack, the double bedtime stories. He didn't mind. In fact, he realized he looked forward to it. Lily smiled more now, though there was still a guardedness in her eyes. He knew trust took time. One evening, after dinner, Emily begged for a movie night. The three of them piled onto the couch with popcorn. Halfway through the film, Lily's head drooped onto Michael's shoulder. Emily leaned against his other side, and for the first time in years, he felt a warmth that went beyond the fire crackling in the fireplace. It was the warmth of belonging. The next day, Michael received a call from Ms. Daniels at the foster agency. "We still haven't been able to contact Lily's foster parents," she said. "Given the circumstances, we'll need to discuss her long-term placement." Michael's grip tightened on the phone. He didn't like the sound of that. "She's fine here," he said firmly. "She's safe and cared for. Let's talk about what it would take to make that official." Ms. Daniels promised to set up a meeting. That night, Michael sat in his study, staring at a photo on his desk. Emily at age 3, sitting on her mother's lap. He thought about how quickly life could change, how easily someone could be lost. The idea of Lily being taken away now felt wrong. She wasn't just a guest anymore. She was part of their lives, whether by blood or by something stronger. When he went to check on the girls, he found them both asleep in Emily's bed, arms tangled together. The teddy bear caught between them. Emily's words from before echoed in his mind. "She's my sister. I just know it." Michael stood there for a long moment, realizing he might be willing to fight to make that true. 2. Sunday morning sunlight poured through the curtains, and Michael found himself awake earlier than usual. He headed to the kitchen, made coffee, and sat at the table with his laptop, trying to get ahead on some work. But his thoughts kept drifting to the meeting Ms. Daniels mentioned. The idea of Lily being sent to another home gnawed at him. He didn't know why it mattered so much so quickly, but it did. She wasn't just a child in need anymore, she was Emily's best friend, her sister, and somehow she felt like family. When the girls finally wandered in, both still in pajamas, Emily's hair a messy halo, and Lily clutching the teddy bear, Michael decided it was time to do something special. "How about we go to the zoo today?" he suggested. Emily's eyes lit up instantly. Lily hesitated, then nodded shyly. Within an hour, they were in the car. Excitement buzzing in the back seat. At the zoo, Emily ran from exhibit to exhibit, pulling Lily along. Michael hung back, letting them lead the way. He noticed how Lily's expression shifted with each new animal. Curiosity at the elephants, delight at the playful otters, wonder at the giraffes bending their long necks to eat. She seemed alive in a way he hadn't seen before. At the petting zoo, Lily knelt beside a goat, gently stroking its fur. Michael crouched next to her. "You're good with animals," he said. She shrugged, but there was a tiny smile. They don't judge you, she murmured. The words hit him hard. They had lunch at a small cafe near the zoo's pond. Emily chattered about wanting a pet rabbit. Lily stayed mostly quiet but listened intently, occasionally glancing at Michael as if trying to gauge his mood. When Emily went to get napkins, Lily spoke softly. If I have to leave, will Emily forget me? Michael set his sandwich down, meeting her gaze. No, Lily. Emily doesn't forget people she loves. Her eyes searched his face. And you? He swallowed, feeling the weight of her question. Me neither. On the drive home, both girls dozed off in the back seat. Michael glanced at them in the rearview mirror. Emily with her head resting on Lily's shoulder. Lily holding the teddy bear tight. He realized that somewhere in the last week, the idea of losing Lily had become unbearable. That evening, he called his lawyer. I want to know what it takes to get guardianship, he said. Temporary or permanent? Whatever I can do right now. The lawyer promised to start the process and contact the agency. Michael knew it wouldn't be simple. There would be paperwork, background checks, maybe even court hearings. But for the first time in years, he felt a surge of determination that had nothing to do with business, and everything to do with protecting the little family he was building. Later that night, he sat on the couch while the girls played a board game on the rug. He couldn't help but notice the similarities between them again. Not just in looks, but in the way they laughed, the way they tilted their heads when thinking. He wondered if fate had brought them together for a reason. When bedtime came, Emily hugged him tight and whispered, "You're the best, Daddy." Lily hesitated before hugging him too, quick and light, as if she wasn't sure it was allowed. But Michael caught her hand before she pulled away and gave it a gentle squeeze. "Good night, sweetheart," he said. She blinked at him, as though trying to memorize the moment, and then followed Emily upstairs. Michael stayed on the couch long after they were asleep, thinking about the days ahead. He didn't know the whole truth about Lily's past, but he knew one thing: he was ready to fight for her. Monday came too quickly, and with it, the return of Michael's work schedule. He sat in his office, phone pressed to his ear, pretending to focus on a client call while his mind wandered back to the girls. He had dropped them at school that morning, watching as Emily skipped inside, and Lily walked carefully behind her, still holding Emily's hand. Even with her new backpack and cleaner clothes, Lily still seemed to carry a weight he couldn't see. As soon as his morning meetings ended, Michael called Ms. Daniels. "I spoke to my lawyer," he said. "I want to start the guardianship process immediately." Ms. Daniels sighed. "Mr. Carter, I understand your concern. But there are procedures. We'll need to assess your home, your background, and Lily's case file. There might be other families on the list." Michael's voice hardened. "I'm not just some stranger who met her last week. She's with us now. She's safe. She's happy. That should count for something." Ms. Daniels agreed to schedule a home visit for later in the week. That afternoon, when Michael picked up the girls, Emily came running out with a huge grin.
"Daddy."
Lily got picked to be the class helper today. Lily followed, holding a stack of drawings Emily had made for her. Michael praised her, noticing how her cheeks flushed with pride. It was such a small thing, but it mattered to her. He could see it. On the drive home, Emily started talking about a school talent show coming up. "Lily can sing," she announced. Lily shook her head quickly. "No, I can't." Emily grinned. "Yes, you can. You sang to me at recess." Michael glanced in the mirror. "I'd like to hear that sometime." Lily ducked her head, a shy smile tugging at her lips. That evening, over dinner, Michael told them about the zoo picture he had printed for them. He handed each girl a copy, framed. Emily squealed, running to put hers on her nightstand. Lily stared at hers for a long time before whispering, "No one's ever given me something like this." Michael didn't know what to say. All he could do was pat her shoulder and tell her she deserved it. When the girls went upstairs, Michael stayed in the kitchen, scrolling through his emails. That's when he saw one from his lawyer, an update. "We may need to investigate Lily's biological family before moving forward." Michael's heart sank. If someone from her past came forward, everything could change. The next day at work, he couldn't shake the thought. He found himself staring at the clock, counting the hours until he could see them again. When he finally arrived at school, Emily came out first, waving. But Lily wasn't with her. Michael scanned the crowd, his chest tightening. Then he saw her, standing by the fence, talking to a woman he didn't recognize. The woman's clothes were worn, her hair tangled, and she had a wild look in her eyes. Michael's instincts kicked in. He strode over quickly, placing himself between Lily and the stranger. "Can I help you?" he asked firmly. The woman glared at him. Then at Lily. "She looks just like my sister's kid," she muttered. Before Michael could say anything, she turned and walked away. Lily's face had gone pale. Michael crouched down. "Do you know her?" Lily shook her head quickly, but her hands trembled. Michael didn't press. "Not here. Not now." But he knew this wasn't the last he'd hear of it. That night, after the girls were asleep, Michael sat in the darkened living room. The memory of that woman gnawing at him. Something about her words, and the look on Lily's face, told him the truth about Lily's past was closer than he thought. And whatever it was, it might be coming straight for them. The next morning, Michael couldn't shake the image of that woman from his mind. Her voice. The way she looked at Lily. It all played over and over like a warning he couldn't ignore. At breakfast, Emily chatted happily about her school project, while Lily quietly nibbled her toast. She didn't mention the woman, and Michael didn't bring it up in front of Emily. But he noticed Lily's eyes dart to the window every time a car passed outside. After dropping the girls off at school, Michael drove straight to the foster care agency. Ms. Daniels was surprised to see him. "Mr. Carter, I thought we had our home visit scheduled for Thursday." Michael didn't sit down. "I need to know if Lily has any living relatives. Anyone who might try to claim her." Ms. Daniels hesitated, flipping through Lily's thin file. "Her birth records are incomplete. She was found with no identification, no clear history. But," she paused, tapping a page, "there is mention of an older half-sister. No confirmed identity though." Michael's gut tightened. "Older half-sister. Do you have a name, Ms.?" Daniels shook her head. "No, just a note from an old foster report. We've never been able to track her down." Michael left with more questions than answers. His mind spinning. Could the woman from yesterday be that half-sister? And if so, what did she want? That afternoon when Michael picked up the girls, he scanned the schoolyard carefully. The woman was nowhere to be seen, but Lily seemed uneasy. On the ride home, Emily sang along to the radio, but Lily stared out the window in silence. Finally Michael spoke softly. "Lily. About yesterday, that woman you were talking to. Are you sure you don't know her?" Lily's fingers twisted in her lap. I've seen her before," she admitted. "Once. In the park. She said she knew my mom." Michael kept his voice calm. "And did she?" Lily shrugged. "I don't remember my mom. But, she said she was family." Lily's eyes flicked to him, full of worry. "If she is, does that mean I have to go with her?" Michael glanced at her in the rearview mirror, his jaw tightening. "Not unless it's what you want. And not unless I know you'll be safe." That night, after the girls went to bed, Michael called his lawyer. "I think someone might try to take Lily," he said. "I want to be prepared." The lawyer advised him to document everything, including yesterday's encounter, and to push the guardianship process forward as quickly as possible. Michael agreed, but the unease in his chest didn't fade. 2 days later, the home visit came. Miss Daniels arrived with a clipboard, asking questions about routines, safety measures, and how Lily was adjusting. Emily proudly gave her a tour of the house, showing off the girls' shared room. Lily followed quietly but clutched Michael's hand the entire time. By the end, Ms. Daniels smiled. "You've created a very stable environment for both girls. That will help your case." But stability was exactly what Michael feared might be shattered. That evening, as they ate dinner, Emily brought up the school talent show again.
"Lily, we could sing together, like sisters."
Lily smiled faintly. But Michael noticed the shadow in her eyes was still there. Whatever the truth about her past was, it wasn't done with them yet. Later, while tucking them in, Emily fell asleep quickly. Lily, however, lingered awake. "Michael," she whispered. He sat on the edge of the bed. "Yeah." She looked at him seriously. "If I tell you something, will you promise not to make me go away?" His chest tightened. "I promise." She hesitated, glancing at Emily's sleeping form before leaning closer. That woman. She said my mom left me because of something bad. And she said, she's been looking for me for years. Michael felt a cold weight settle over him. Whoever this woman was, she wasn't just passing by. She had a purpose. And now he had no doubt. She was going to come back. Michael didn't sleep that night. He kept replaying Lily's words. She's been looking for me for years. If that was true, then this woman hadn't just stumbled into their lives by accident. She'd been waiting, watching, and now for some reason, she had decided to step out of the shadows. Michael sat in his study until dawn. The house quiet except for the occasional creak of the floorboards. Every instinct in him told him to protect Lily. But he didn't know yet what he was protecting her from. The next morning, he drove the girls to school, his eyes scanning the streets for any sign of the woman. Nothing. Still, he found himself walking them all the way to the door instead of dropping them off at the curb. Emily skipped ahead to greet her friends. But Lily stayed close to his side. I'll be here right at pickup, he promised her. She nodded, but he could tell her mind was somewhere else. Back at the office. Michael tried to focus on work but found himself checking his phone every 10 minutes. At lunch, he called his lawyer again. If this woman tries to claim Lily as family, what happens? The lawyer sighed. It depends. If she can prove legal guardianship or blood relation, she could petition for custody. But without evidence, it's your word against hers. Michael rubbed his temples. Then I need evidence. Something that proves Lily is better off here. That afternoon, he was waiting outside the school 10 minutes early. When the bell rang, children poured out, laughter and shouts filling the air. Emily appeared first, waving her arms wildly. Daddy, Lily followed, clutching her backpack. Michael smiled. Until he noticed a figure standing across the street. The same woman. She didn't approach this time. She just stood there, watching them. When her eyes met his, she gave a faint smile that felt more like a threat. Michael put an arm around both girls and guided them to the car. He didn't mention the woman, not wanting to alarm Emily. But as he drove away, he glanced in the mirror and saw her still standing there, following them with her eyes until they turned the corner. That evening, Michael decided to start asking questions. After the girls went to bed, he pulled up his laptop and searched every public record he could find for missing persons, old foster care reports, and anything related to Lily's case. Hours passed with little progress, until he found a grainy news clipping from 8 years ago. Local woman accused of neglect. Child removed from home. The woman's photo was blurry, but Michael recognized the eyes. It was her. The article didn't name the child, only said she had been placed in foster care. There was no follow-up story, no mention of where the child went. Michael leaned back in his chair, his heart pounding. If this was Lily's half-sister, or worse, her mother, then this was more complicated than he'd imagined. The next day, Michael made a quiet call to a private investigator he had used once for a corporate case. I need you to find everything you can about this woman, he said, sending the photo. And I need it fast. The investigator agreed, promising to start immediately. That evening, during dinner, Michael tried to keep things light. Emily told a long, animated story about her teacher slipping on a pencil, making both girls laugh. Lily laughed too, but it was softer, distracted. After dinner, when Emily went upstairs, Michael asked Lily, if you could tell me one thing about that woman, what would it be? Lily fiddled with her fork. She said she knows where my real family is. Her voice dropped. And she said you wouldn't want me if you knew the truth. Michael's chest tightened. But he kept his voice steady. Lily, there is nothing you could tell me that would make me not want you here. Nothing. She looked up at him, her eyes searching his face, as if testing whether she could believe him. For the first time, he saw a flicker of hope push past her fear. But Michael knew that flicker could be snuffed out in an instant. Because whatever truth that woman was carrying was getting closer every day. Too cool. Michael sat in his study long after everyone had gone to bed. The house was quiet, but his mind wasn't. The words Emily had spoken earlier that day kept echoing in his head. Dad, I think she's scared she'll have to leave. He leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. Sophie had been part of their lives for months now, and in that time, She had gone from being a shy, guarded child to someone who laughed freely, trusted them, and even called Emily her sister without hesitation. But underneath that, Michael could still see the fear. Fear of losing the only safe place she'd ever known. He opened his laptop and began searching for adoption laws in their state. His fingers hovered over the keyboard when he realized the weight of what he was considering. This wasn't just helping a child temporarily, this was forever. The next morning at breakfast, Emily noticed Michael was unusually quiet. "Dad, are you okay?" she asked, her voice soft. Michael gave a small smile. "I'm fine. Just thinking about some important things." Sophie glanced up from her cereal. "Is it about me?" she asked cautiously. Michael froze for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, kiddo, it's about you." Sophie's spoon paused in midair. "Am I going to have to go somewhere else?" Michael reached across the table, resting his hand over hers. "Not if I can help it." Later that day, Michael called his lawyer, Daniel, who had been a trusted friend for years. "I need to know exactly what it would take to make Sophie a permanent part of our family," Michael said without hesitation. Daniel was silent for a moment. "That's a big step, Michael." "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything," Michael replied firmly. The next few weeks were a blur of paperwork, background checks, and meetings with social workers. Sophie was nervous at first, afraid that these meetings meant she was being taken away. But Michael made sure to explain everything in a way she could understand. "This is just so they know we're the right family for you," he told her one evening as they sat together in the living room. "They're making sure you'll be safe here. Forever." Emily sat next to Sophie and hugged her. "Told you, you're stuck with us," she said with a grin. For the first time, Sophie actually smiled when they talked about the future. But just when everything seemed to be going smoothly, Daniel called with news that made Michael's heart sink. "There's a complication," Daniel said. "Someone has come forward claiming to be Sophie's biological relative." Michael's grip on the phone tightened. "Ooh. A woman named Laura Miller. She says she's Sophie's aunt." Michael drove in silence, the sound of the rain tapping against the windshield filling the space between them. Sophie sat in the passenger seat, holding the envelope they had taken from her mother's belongings. She hadn't opened it yet, almost as if she was afraid of what it might say. "You can open it when you're ready," Michael said softly, glancing at her. She nodded but didn't move. I just don't know if I'm ready to read it yet." "That's okay," Michael replied. "It'll be here when you are." They pulled into a small cafe, one of those cozy places tucked away in a corner of the city. Michael thought a warm drink and a quiet moment might make things easier. The bell over the door jingled as they walked in, the scent of fresh coffee and baked bread wrapping around them. They found a table in the corner, away from the few other customers. Sophie stared out the window, her fingers still gripping the envelope. Michael broke the silence. "When I was your age, I used to think letters could change everything. My father once wrote me a note that I kept for years. It reminded me that I wasn't alone." Sophie looked at him, her eyes softening. "What did it say?" Michael smiled faintly. "Just 5 words, I believe in you, son." Simple, but powerful. Sophie lowered her gaze to the envelope. "What if my mom didn't write anything like that?" Michael leaned forward, his voice steady but gentle. "Then maybe it's something else you need to hear. Sometimes, letters aren't about answers, they're about closure." She took a deep breath, and slowly slid her finger under the flap, tearing it open. Her hands shook as she unfolded the paper. Michael stayed quiet, letting her take her time. Her eyes moved over the words. At first, her face was unreadable. Then her lips trembled, and tears began to fill her eyes. She handed the letter to Michael. He read it silently. The handwriting was rushed, but the message was clear. Sophie's mother had written that she was sorry. Sorry for the choices she had made, sorry for not being there. Sorry for letting life take her in the wrong direction. She told Sophie she was brave, stronger than she knew, and that she hoped one day she'd forgive her. Michael set the letter down carefully. "She wanted you to know she loved you," he said softly. Sophie wiped her cheeks. "It's not enough, but it's something." Michael nodded. It's a start. They sat there for a while, sipping hot chocolate in the warm light of the cafe. Michael could see a shift in her. Not a huge change, but a small step forward. And sometimes, small steps were the most important. When they left, Sophie tucked the letter safely into her bag. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still heavy with clouds. Michael glanced at her as they walked back to the car. "Ready to go home?" he asked. Sophie hesitated, then shook her head. "Can we go somewhere else first?" Michael smiled. "Anywhere you want." She looked ahead, determination flickering in her eyes. "I want to see where my mom lived, before everything happened." Michael took a slow breath. He knew it wouldn't be easy. But maybe this was the next step she needed. "All right," he said. "Let's go." Michael didn't sleep that night. He sat by the window in his study, staring out at the quiet city, replaying everything in his mind. The past few days, the things Emma had told him, the way Sophie's eyes lit up when she smiled. The thought that Sophie had lived through so much pain, and yet still managed to laugh sometimes, it shook him. He kept hearing her voice in his head. "Do you think families are forever?" By morning, Michael had made a decision. He didn't care what it would cost him: money, time, reputation. He wasn't going to let her go back to a place that hurt her. When he arrived at the shelter that day, Sophie was sitting at a small table, coloring on a scrap of paper. She looked up the moment she saw him. "You came," she whispered, as if she was still surprised every time. "Of course I did," Michael said gently, kneeling beside her. "I'll always come for you." She put the crayon down slowly, almost like she didn't want to ruin the moment. "Emma says you have work today." "I do," Michael admitted. "But you're more important." Her eyes softened. "No one's ever said that to me before." Something inside Michael broke a little. He reached out and took her small hand. "Well, you're going to hear it a lot from now on." That afternoon, Michael met with Emma in her office. She had a stack of papers in front of her. "You're serious about this?" Emma asked, searching his face. "More serious than I've ever been about anything." "It's not easy," she warned. "The system, it's slow, and there will be questions. They'll want to know why a billionaire CEO suddenly wants to take in a little girl." "I don't care what they think," Michael replied. "I care about Sophie." Emma smiled faintly. "Then let's start the process." Later that evening, Michael took Sophie out for ice cream. She sat across from him in the little booth, her legs swinging above the floor. "Michael," she asked between bites. "Yes. If I came to live with you, would I have my own bed?" "You'd have your own room," he said, smiling. "And you can choose the color of the walls." Her eyes widened. "Pink. Any color you want." She thought for a second, then whispered, "Can it have stars on the ceiling?" Michael's throat tightened. "We'll put a whole galaxy up there if you want." For the first time, she didn't just smile, she laughed, and the sound filled the room like sunlight. Michael realized then that he wasn't just helping a little girl, she was changing him too. Michael woke up earlier than usual the next morning. The sunlight filtered in through the curtains, casting a soft glow across the room. For a moment, he just lay there, thinking about everything. About Emily, about Lily, about how much his life had changed in such a short time. He could hear faint laughter coming from the kitchen. It was the kind of sound that made him want to get up immediately. When he walked in, Emily and Lily were sitting at the table, still in their pajamas, eating cereal. Emily was talking animatedly, telling Lily about a book she was reading, while Lily listened intently, occasionally nodding and smiling. They both looked up at him. "Morning, Dad," Emily said cheerfully. "Good morning," Lily added softly, her voice carrying a warmth he hadn't heard before. Michael smiled. "Morning, girls. Did you sleep well?" Emily nodded. "Yep, Lily stayed in my room last night. We talked until we fell asleep." Lily glanced at Emily and giggled. "She talks a lot." They all laughed. And Michael felt that familiar ache in his chest. The one that came when he realized just how much these two girls meant to him. He poured himself a cup of coffee and sat down with them. "So, what's the plan for today?" he asked. Emily's eyes lit up. "Can we go to the park? And maybe get ice cream after?" Lily hesitated, looking between them, as if unsure she should even suggest anything. Michael caught it instantly. Lily. What about you? Anything you'd like to do? She thought for a moment, then said quietly, I've never been to the zoo before. Emily gasped, never. Lily shook her head. Michael smiled. Well, I think we just found our plan. That afternoon, the three of them walked through the gates of the city zoo. Lily's eyes were wide as she took everything in. The bright signs, the animal enclosures. The families strolling past. Emily ran ahead to see the giraffes, and Lily followed, a little hesitant at first, but soon running alongside her. Michael hung back a little, watching them. For the first time since he'd met Lily, he saw her looking like a carefree child. She was laughing, pointing at the animals, asking questions. At one point, Emily reached for her hand, and Lily took it without hesitation. Michael felt a lump in his throat. They spent hours walking around, seeing lions, elephants, penguins and more. They took silly pictures together. And Michael bought them each a small stuffed animal from the gift shop. Emily chose a penguin, Lily chose a baby tiger. On the way home, both girls fell asleep in the back seat, their heads leaning against each other. Michael glanced in the rearview mirror and smiled. In that quiet moment, he realized something. He didn't just feel responsible for Lily anymore. He cared for her as if she were his own. And deep down, he knew she was part of his family now. The next morning, Michael woke up earlier than usual. The first rays of sunlight were slipping through the curtains, casting a golden glow across the bedroom. He sat on the edge of the bed for a moment, rubbing his eyes, his thoughts already racing. Today felt different, heavy, but also urgent. Emily's laughter echoed faintly from the kitchen. The sound brought a small smile to his face, but it also tightened the knot in his chest. He still hadn't told her the full truth. He wanted to, but he feared the weight it might put on her little heart. When he stepped into the kitchen, Emily was sitting on a stool, swinging her legs and buttering toast far too generously. "Morning, Daddy," she greeted, beaming. "Morning, sweetheart," he replied, planting a kiss on her head. "Guess what? Sophie's mom said she can come over today after school. We're gonna paint the picture we talked about," Emily announced, eyes sparkling. Michael froze. Sophie's mom? That wasn't possible. He carefully set down his coffee cup. "Emily, what did you say?" "Sophie's mom," Emily repeated innocently. "She came to pick her up yesterday. She was really nice. She even waved at me." Michael felt a chill run through him. Sophie's mom wasn't supposed to be here. The last he knew, she was far away, or at least that's what Sophie had implied. He crouched down to meet Emily's eyes. "Emily, are you sure it was her mom?" Emily nodded enthusiastically. She had the same eyes as Sophie. She hugged her really tight. Michael's mind started working overtime. If Sophie's mom was back, why hadn't Sophie mentioned it? Why hadn't anyone told him? Something didn't add up. After dropping Emily off at school, Michael didn't head to the office. Instead, he drove straight to Sophie's neighborhood. The streets were quiet, but he noticed a small, faded sedan parked in front of the building. He recognized it instantly. It had been in one of the photos Sophie had once shown him. Back when she'd told him stories about her mom's life before everything fell apart. He hesitated at the entrance. What if this was a good thing? What if Sophie's mom had finally turned things around? He didn't want to interfere. But the nagging feeling in his chest wouldn't go away. Climbing the stairs, he stopped outside Sophie's apartment. He knocked gently. No answer. He knocked again, louder this time. Finally, the door creaked open, and there she was. Sophie's mom. She looked thinner than he remembered from the photos, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, eyes tired but alert. "Michael Carter," she said flatly, as if she had been expecting him. "I heard you're back," Michael said cautiously. "Emily mentioned she saw you." Her lips curved into a small smile. "Yes. I'm here for Sophie now. She's my daughter." Michael studied her expression. Something in her tone felt off, possessive, but not warm. "Does Sophie know you're planning to take her?" he asked quietly. Her smile faltered. "She doesn't need to. I'm her mother. I can make decisions for her." Michael felt that knot in his chest tighten. "Sophie's been through enough," he said evenly. "If you're here to stay, I hope it's because you're ready to care for her. Not because you think you can just pick up where you left off." Her eyes narrowed. And you think you can do better? You're not her father, Michael. Remember that. The words stung, but he didn't flinch. No, I'm not her father. But I've been the one making sure she eats, sleeps, and smiles these past months. That counts for something. Before she could reply, a small voice came from behind her. Mr. Carter. Sophie peeked out from behind her mother's legs, her face pale and unsure. Michael's eyes softened. Hey. Kiddo. She looked between the two adults, clearly sensing the tension. Why are you here? She whispered. I just wanted to make sure you're okay, he said gently. Sophie didn't answer, but her eyes told him everything. She wasn't sure if she was okay. Not yet. And Michael knew, right then, this wasn't over. Michael couldn't shake the image of Emily and Leela asleep on the couch from his mind. They had stayed up late last night, giggling under a blanket, sharing secrets only little girls seem to understand. He had stood at the doorway, watching them until their laughter faded into soft breathing. This morning, Emily was the first to wake. She tiptoed into the kitchen, her hair sticking out in every direction, and whispered, Daddy, can we make pancakes for Leela? She's never had pancakes with chocolate chips before. Michael smiled, even though his heart ached. Of course, sweetheart. By the time Leela wandered in, rubbing her eyes and wearing Emily's oversized pajama top, the smell of breakfast filled the air. She froze in the doorway, staring at the table. Plates, syrup, fresh fruit, even a small vase with flowers Emily had picked from the backyard. For me? Leela asked, almost as if she didn't believe it. For us, Emily corrected, patting the seat beside her. Leela sat down slowly, looking from Emily to Michael. No one's ever made breakfast like this for me before. Michael's chest tightened. Well, get used to it. We're a breakfast family now. As they ate, Leela told them little pieces of her past. How she used to skip breakfast, because there was nothing in the cupboard. How she sometimes ate crackers for dinner. How she learned not to complain because complaining made people mad. Michael listened without interrupting, every word slicing deeper into him. Emily, sensing the heaviness, reached across the table and squeezed Leela's hand. You're here now. And Daddy makes the best pancakes in the world. Leela giggled softly. It was a sound Michael wanted to protect forever. Later that afternoon, the girls played outside while Michael sat on the porch, pretending to read but really just watching them. Emily was showing Leela how to braid hair. Every now and then, Leela would glance toward him, like she was checking to make sure he was still there. And every time he'd smile back. Michael stood still for a long moment, his mind struggling to process the words he had just heard. Emily's voice had been calm, almost too calm, but her eyes told a story that was anything but peaceful. She was holding onto his hand, gripping it tighter than usual, as if she was afraid he might let go. I saw her again, Daddy, she whispered. The girl from the park. The one with the blue ribbon. Michael's chest tightened. He remembered the first time Emily had mentioned her. Weeks ago. But back then, he thought it was just a passing thing. A stranger she'd noticed once. But the way Emily was looking at him now, her eyes wide and desperate, made it clear this wasn't just a coincidence. Where, sweetheart? He asked gently. Emily pointed toward the end of the street, where a narrow alley cut between two old brick buildings. Michael turned his head just in time to see a small shadow disappear into the darkness. His instincts kicked in immediately. Stay here, he said softly. But Emily shook her head, tears welling in her eyes. She's scared, Emily pleaded. She won't talk to you if I'm not there. Michael hesitated, torn between wanting to protect Emily and knowing that her presence might be the only way to reach the mysterious girl. Finally, he nodded, squeezing her hand. All right. But you stay right beside me. They walked toward the alley together, their footsteps quiet against the pavement. The air grew colder as they entered the narrow space, the walls on either side pressing in. Michael could hear the faint sound of breathing. Quick and shallow. Hey, Emily called softly, her voice echoing just enough to carry without sounding threatening. It's okay. I brought my dad. He's nice. I promise. For a moment, there was silence. Then, from behind a stack of broken crates, a small figure emerged. It was the girl. Her clothes were torn, her hair matted, and her eyes darted between Michael and Emily with a mix of fear and hope. She clutched something close to her chest. A crumpled envelope. Stained at the edges. Michael's heart sank. He recognized that kind of grip. Whatever was inside that envelope was all she had. "Hi," Michael said softly, crouching down to her level. "My name's Michael. What's yours?" The girl hesitated, then shook her head. "Doesn't matter," she mumbled. Her voice so quiet it was almost lost to the wind. Emily stepped forward. "It matters to me." The girl's eyes softened just a little. She glanced at Emily. Then at Michael again, as if trying to decide if she could trust them. Finally, she held out the envelope. Her hands were trembling. This isn't mine," she whispered. "But I think it's for you." Michael took it slowly, his fingers brushing against hers for the briefest second. He could feel how cold she was. How long she must have been out here alone. He looked down at the envelope and froze when he saw the name written in faded ink. It was his. And below it was a name he hadn't seen in over 15 years. That the sun was starting to set when Ben finally got home. The golden light spilled through the windows, making the living room look warm and peaceful. But inside, he felt anything but peaceful. He walked in quietly, expecting to hear laughter or chatter. Instead, the house was silent, except for the faint sound of someone humming. He followed the sound and found Leela sitting on the couch, her legs tucked under her, holding the little charm bracelet Emma had given her earlier. She was humming softly, her fingers tracing over each tiny charm as if memorizing them. When she noticed him she smiled. But it wasn't her usual bright smile. It was soft, almost cautious. "You're home," she said. Ben sat beside her. "Yeah, I'm home. How was your day?" Leela shrugged. "It was good. Emma made pancakes for breakfast. And we played board games." "But," she hesitated. "But," he asked gently. Her voice dropped. "I still don't understand why my mom didn't come for me." The question hit him like a punch. He'd been preparing himself for this moment. But now that it was here, the words felt stuck in his throat. "Lila," he started, "sometimes grown-ups make choices that aren't fair. Sometimes. It's not because they don't love you. It's because they don't know how to take care of you the way you need." Leela frowned. "But if you love someone, you take care of them." Ben felt his chest tighten. "You're right. You absolutely do. And I promise you, no matter what happened before, you are safe now. And you're not going to be alone again." She didn't say anything for a moment. Then she leaned into his side, resting her head against him. "Okay." They sat like that for a long time, the silence no longer feeling heavy but healing. Later that night, Emma joined them on the couch with a bowl of popcorn. "Movie night?" she asked with a grin. Leela's face lit up. "Yes." Ben smiled for the first time all day. "Movie night." As the movie played, Leela's laughter began to fill the room again, and for the first time since he had met her, Ben realized something. Maybe he hadn't just saved Leela. Maybe she was saving him too. Michael sat in his office late that night, long after the building had emptied. The glow from the city skyline filtered in through the tall glass windows. But his mind wasn't on the view. His phone lay on the desk, screen dark, but he kept glancing at it as if expecting a message. He had spoken to Emily before bed. She had sounded happy, telling him about the bedtime story she had read to Lily. "Dad," she'd said softly before hanging up. "I think she really feels safe here." Those words stayed with him. Safe. For a child who had been through so much, safety was no small thing. The next morning, Michael arrived early at the house. The kitchen was warm with the smell of toast and scrambled eggs. Emily sat at the table, her hair messy, and Lily was beside her, carefully holding a spoon as she tried to eat on her own. "Morning," Michael greeted, his voice lighter than it had been in days. Lily looked up at him and smiled. A real smile, the kind that reached her eyes. "Morning," she said softly. It was such a small thing, but Michael felt it deeply. After breakfast, the three of them sat in the living room. Emily started telling Lily about her school, the games she played at recess, and the friends she wanted Lily to meet. Lily listened quietly, nodding. Michael watched them, realizing this wasn't just about helping a child in need anymore. This was about building something lasting. But he also knew the road ahead wasn't simple. There were still legal matters, background checks, and the long process of proving he could give Lily the home she deserved. That afternoon, a social worker came by for a follow-up visit. She spoke with Lily privately, then sat down with Michael in the kitchen. "She's opening up," the social worker said. "That's a very good sign. But we'll need to see consistent stability before making any permanent decisions." Michael nodded. "I understand. I'm not going anywhere. She's part of us now." The woman smiled faintly, as if she'd heard promises like that before. But she could see something different in his eyes. Something steady, unwavering. Later that evening, Emily asked, "Dad, if Lily stays forever, does that mean she'll be my sister?" Michael hesitated for a moment, then pulled both girls close. "If that's what she wants, and if we're lucky enough for it to happen, yes. She'll be your sister." Lily didn't say anything, but she rested her head against his arm. That was all the answer he needed for now. Emily sat at the kitchen counter, tracing circles on the wooden surface with her finger, her thoughts somewhere far away. Michael walked in quietly, placing a small plate of cookies in front of her. "You didn't eat much at dinner," he said gently. She gave a small shrug. "I wasn't hungry." Michael pulled out a chair and sat beside her. "You want to talk about it?" Emily hesitated, then looked at him. "It's about Anna." Michael's chest tightened. "What about her?" She told me she still dreams about the night she lost her parents." Emily whispered. "She said it feels like it happened yesterday." Michael's heart ached. "That's a lot for her to carry." Emily nodded, her eyes glistening. "I told her I'd be her family forever. But what if she's still scared? What if she thinks one day she'll lose me too?" Michael reached over, gently holding Emily's hand. "You won't lose each other. Not if I can help it. And I can promise you, I'll do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen." Emily leaned her head against his shoulder. "She's my sister, Dad. I don't want her to ever feel alone again." Michael placed a soft kiss on her hair. "Neither do I." Just then, Anna walked in from the hallway, wearing one of Emily's oversized sweatshirts. She looked tired, but when she saw them sitting together, she smiled faintly. "Are you two having a meeting without me?" she teased softly. Emily grinned and patted the stool next to her. "Come sit. We're making a new rule." Anna raised an eyebrow as she sat down. "A rule?" "Yeah," Emily said, looking between them. "No matter what happens, we stick together. Always." Anna's lips trembled, and she nodded slowly. "Always." Michael felt something shift in that moment. It wasn't just words. It was a silent promise, one that bound them tighter than before. Later that night, after the girls had gone to bed, Michael stood by the living room window, looking out at the quiet street. He thought about all the unexpected turns his life had taken since the day Emily had introduced Anna as her sister. Back then, he hadn't known what it would mean. He hadn't known how much it would change him. Now, he couldn't imagine life without her. And deep down, he knew this was only the beginning of their story. Michael stood in his office, hands gripping the edge of his desk, as if the weight of everything was pressing down harder than ever. The city skyline stretched before him through the glass wall, but for the first time, he didn't see success, he didn't see power, he saw distance. Distance between him and Emily, between him and his own sense of peace. The last few weeks had been a whirlwind. The truth about Lily had opened wounds he thought were long buried. But more than that, it had opened doors to a kind of love he wasn't sure he was ready for. The kind that doesn't let you keep your walls up. He had just hung up a call with his lawyer, who was finalizing paperwork for joint guardianship of Lily. The fact that he was even considering taking legal steps for a child he had only recently met would have shocked the man he used to be. But then again, the man he used to be wouldn't have spent his evenings at a kitchen table, helping two little girls with homework, while pasta boiled on the stove and laughter filled the air. A knock at the door pulled him from his thoughts. It was Claire, holding a small paper bag. "She wanted you to have this," Claire said softly, setting it on his desk. Michael frowned. "Lily," Claire replied, smiling faintly before slipping out of the office. Inside the bag was a folded piece of notebook paper, the edges uneven from being torn out too quickly. In the middle, In uneven handwriting, were the words "Thank you for finding me a family. I hope it's you." Michael sat back in his chair, staring at the words until his vision blurred. He could feel his chest tightening, his throat burning. This wasn't just a thank you. This was a choice. A child's way of saying, "Don't let me go again." That evening, when he got to Emily's school, he found Lily waiting with her. The two girls were giggling about something, their heads bent close. Emily spotted him and waved wildly, running up to him with Lily at her side. "Daddy, Lily wants to show you something," Emily announced, holding up a worn, stuffed rabbit. "This is Mr. Whiskers. He's the only thing she brought when she came to live with us." Michael knelt down to Lily's level. "Mr. Whiskers, huh? Looks like he's been through a lot." Lily nodded. "But he's always been there. Just like Emily's been here for me." She hesitated, then added, "And you too. Maybe." He smiled, but inside, his heart was splitting wide open. "Yeah, Lily," he said quietly, "me too." Later that night, after the girls had fallen asleep, Michael stood in their doorway for a long time. Lily was curled up on the bed next to Emily, Mr. Whiskers tucked under her arm. Emily's hand rested lightly on Lily's, as if even in sleep she wanted to make sure her sister was safe. In that moment, Michael knew. This wasn't temporary anymore. This wasn't about helping for a few weeks, or being a kind stranger. This was his family now. And nothing, no board meeting, no corporate deal, no business empire, was going to take that away from him. Michael had been in countless high-stakes negotiations. The kind that could change the fate of entire companies. But nothing compared to the tension in that small living room now. Across from him, Sarah sat with her hands in her lap, her eyes avoiding his. The hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen was the only sound for a moment. "I don't know if I can do this," Sarah finally whispered, her voice trembling. "I don't know if I can be what Emily needs." Michael leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "Sarah, she already sees you as that. You've been there for her in ways I never could have imagined. She's not looking for perfect. She's looking for someone who won't leave." Sarah blinked, her jaw tightening. "That's easy for you to say. You've always had choices. I've just survived. That's what I'm good at, surviving, not belonging." Michael's chest tightened. He could see the years of pain behind her words, the walls she'd built to keep herself safe. "Belonging isn't about what you've been through," he said gently. "It's about what you choose now, and you have a choice, Sarah, Emily or the fear. You can't hold on to both." For a long moment, she said nothing. Then, her shoulders slumped as though the weight she'd been carrying was suddenly too much. "I'm scared, Michael. If I let myself believe I can be a family, and then it's taken away again." Her voice cracked. "I don't know if I could survive that." Michael reached across the coffee table, placing his hand over hers. "Then don't survive it. Live it. Take the chance. I can't promise everything will be perfect, but I can promise you won't face it alone." A tear slid down Sarah's cheek. And for the first time since he'd walked in, she met his eyes. There was something raw there, something vulnerable, and maybe, just maybe, a flicker of hope. From the hallway, Emily's small voice broke the silence. "Are you guys okay?" Sarah quickly wiped her face and called back, "Yeah, sweetie. We're okay." She glanced at Michael and whispered, "At least I think we will be." Michael gave her a small smile. "One step at a time. That's all we need." Emily ran into the room, her hair slightly messy, a drawing clutched in her hand. "I made this for both of you," she announced, holding it up proudly. It was a simple picture. 3 stick figures holding hands under a crooked sun. But in the center, written in a child's uneven letters, were the words "My family." Sarah's hand went to her mouth, and Michael felt something in his chest shift. No business deal. No corporate victory could compare to this moment. And right there, in that cramped living room, it felt like the 3 of them had taken their very first step toward something real. 2. Michael walked into the hospital room, and saw Emily sitting by the bed, holding Sophie's hand. Sophie was asleep, her face pale but calm. The soft beeping of the monitor filled the room. Emily looked up when she saw him. "Dad, she's getting better," Emily whispered, her voice full of hope. Michael nodded, moving closer. "Yes, sweetheart. She's stronger than she knows. He pulled a chair beside them and sat down. For a moment, he just watched Sophie sleep. All the meetings, the deals, the endless calls. None of it mattered right now. What mattered was this small circle of people in front of him. Dad, Emily said, looking at him with serious eyes. When Sophie wakes up, can she stay with us? Not just for a little while. Forever. Michael's heart tightened. He had thought about this every day since Sophie came into their lives. She had been through so much. And yet she had brought a kind of light into their home that he hadn't even realized was missing. He reached out and brushed a strand of hair from Sophie's forehead. Emily, if Sophie wants to stay, then yes. Forever. Emily's eyes lit up, and she hugged him tightly. Thank you, Dad. Just then, Sophie stirred. Her eyelids fluttered open, and she blinked at them. Hi, she said weakly. Michael smiled. Kiddo. You scared us. Sophie gave a faint smile. Sorry. I just got tired. Emily leaned forward. You're not allowed to get tired anymore. You have to stay with us. Sophie's smile faded a little. Stay with you. Michael looked into her eyes, steady and sure. Yes, Sophie. If you want, this can be your home. No more moving around. No more wondering where you belong. For a long moment, Sophie didn't speak. Then her eyes filled with tears. I want that. More than anything. Emily squeezed her hand. Then it settled. Michael felt a quiet sense of peace settle over him. The chaos of the past months had led to this. 3 people who needed each other, finally finding the place they belonged. He knew there would be challenges ahead. Healing took time. Trust took time, but they had time now, and they had each other. Michael glanced at the clock, then back at Sophie and Emily. How about when you're better, we all go out for ice cream? The 3 of us. Emily grinned. Can we get 2 scoops each? Sophie laughed softly. Maybe 3. Michael chuckled. It's a deal. For the first time in a long time, Michael felt like everything was exactly where it should be. Michael walked into the hospital room quietly, his eyes going straight to Emily. She was sitting by her sister Lily's bed, holding her hand as if she was never going to let go. Dad, Emily said softly, her face lighting up when she saw him. Michael stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. How's she doing? The doctors say she'll be okay, Emily replied. She's just tired. Lily slowly opened her eyes and gave a weak smile. Michael knelt beside her bed. Hey, sweetheart. You scared us. I'm sorry. Lily whispered. I didn't want to be a burden. Michael shook his head firmly. Lily, you are never a burden. You're family now. Always. Tears welled up in her eyes. I've never had a family before. Well, Michael said with a soft smile. You've got one now, and we're not letting you go. Emily leaned over, hugging her sister gently. We're going to do everything together. School birthdays. Christmas. Everything. Lily's lips trembled as she nodded. I'd like that. Over the next few days, Michael barely left the hospital. He handled work calls from the hallway, making sure his daughters had everything they needed. When Lily was discharged, Michael brought them both home, their home. That night, the 3 of them sat together on the couch, watching a movie and sharing popcorn. Michael looked at them. 2 little girls who'd found each other in the most unexpected way. And realized something: his life had been full before. But now it was complete. Emily rested her head on his shoulder. Dad? Yes. Thank you for finding my sister. Michael kissed the top of her head. Thank you for showing me what really matters. The fire crackled softly, and outside the window, the city lights twinkled. Inside, a father and his 2 daughters felt something they had all been missing for far too long: home. If you like this story, please subscribe to the channel, so you never miss the next one. And if this story reminded you of something from your own life, share it in the comments. I'd love to read it. Thank you for watching, and thank you for giving me your valuable time.